So I don't know. It's her ex-boyfriend named Charles. He told her he was leaving, going to California for 6 months, and was going out there to work so he could get money to bring back to her. And fixed up her house and everything. And she said she told him last night on the phone that if he came back, she wanted a firm commitment from him, and then it couldn't be just come and go. I told her he sounded like a drifter, She said, no, he's not. He stays at the shelters, and he sleeps in his truck, but he has a job and he has money, and he also gets disability. I was like, well, that's not normal. Most people, she said, he just prefers to live homeless. I'm like, really? Most people don't prefer that. That's abnormal. That's unusual. Why does he prefer that? And she told me he does undercover work for the sheriff's department on the street. I asked her, does he carry a weapon? He said, no. He just carries mace. And he has assisted in a couple of arrests. So she has psychiatric history, and I think I tried to tell her, it's very, very painful to go through a divorce when somebody's cheated on you, and it is. And I tried to tell her about my ex. She just cut me off. I don't know if her time was up or what it was, but nobody was in our house today but me and Diane not Diane, Darlene. Only Darlene and I were in the house today after I took Jake to school. Jake and I left at 7:31 a.m. this morning. I drove him here to school, dropped him off, returned home, and had a phone call with the court clerk and a phone call with Miss Neal. And then I went and sat in the living room for about an hour and talked with Miss Darlene. Kamikaze made a pass over at the beginning of our conversation on the couch when she received a text message on her phone that she didn't let me read, which she said was just a text, it's nothing. And then we got to the end of our conversation, and it was about noon, and she abruptly said she had to go. She abruptly got up and went over to the front living room window and put her hand up on the window. And then she said she had to check the mail. And she went around to check the mail. She said I didn't go to the door though, and she didn't tell me she was going anywhere. So she didn't invite me to testify. I didn't give her permission to participate in any type of matter involving me or Jake. Nobody invited me to testify. I didn't receive a subpoena. Was not informed of a search or my right to a lawyer. So that's all I have to say. I can appreciate that she's having trouble and she's going to a therapist, so she's managing her psychiatric issues on her own. And I told her I agreed, and I thought, yeah, most people, I would think, she said, and so she sees a therapist. I was like, yeah, well, I would think after going through a divorce, yeah, you would go to a therapist. I told her I'd talked to a pastor who told me that the divorce, going through divorce was just like losing a spouse to death, like becoming a widow. So, I can understand why she wanted to go to a therapist. I think what she's having a hard time facing, because she talks about the girl when she would, in the mornings, her ex would come up, and she'd sort of jeer at her, and her therapist gave her an assignment not to have any contact with her ex-husband at all for 2 weeks. Not by text, not by phone, not in person, nothing. And I think that's where she is with this. She told me, she admitted to me she was still in love with him, but that she wouldn't admit that. But then she said, yeah, I am still in love with him. And he's coming over to do his laundry, though. He was over there yesterday. He cheated on her. She didn't want to admit that he was cheating. That, She says he didn't do it, she didn't see it. Well, okay. But he was at least emotionally committing adultery. So she knows that. So she's having a hard time admitting that. But she's also expressing to me animosity towards the girl, calling her a bimbo, that type of thing. And talking about him and her with disdain in her voice and disapproval. So she's still suffering. And, that's a hard thing to do. And I told her she's a better person than me. Because I sure couldn't put up with that. Yeah, I couldn't put up with it. I couldn't have somebody doing that in my face. Cheating in my face. Especially if he was going in to kiss the girl goodnight. Or, to tell her goodnight in her bedroom. A married man should never walk into a single woman's bedroom, especially when they're going to bed and all this stuff. And I can understand that. She wanted to believe him, and he was, she never actually saw him having sex. Okay, so maybe he actually really didn't. But he was emotionally attached to the woman. To go into her bedroom and tell her goodnight, why do you need to do that? I've stayed in the homes of people that were married. Nobody ever made a special trip every night to come to my bedroom and walk into my bedroom and tell me good night. So, that's unusual circumstance, and it's suspicious behavior. That being the case, it's easy to believe and assume that he probably was fucking her under the same roof, especially since what he said was he wanted a divorce the minute that she told the girl to get out. She didn't want to admit that, and it's humiliating her to see the man every day and the girl, and he's coming over and he's wanting her to let him do laundry and stuff like that. He's texting her every day, but he's divorced. They're divorced. They're not married anymore. So, they're not together, and it's not going to be, unless he divorced her, he didn't get alimony or anything. She just signed it, and it was notarized, and then that's it. But this whole thing back and forth, I think the guy's playing both ends against the middle. I told her I think he's a player and a half, that he was deceptive with her. And she told me also that he stayed with her until all of her money from her inheritance was gone. And she said she spoiled him, that he didn't even have to run his own bathwater. That when the inheritance money was gone was when he was gone, is what she said, as soon as the inheritance money was gone. So she was buying him. She said that it had turned into where she was associating with him, or, relating to him in a motherly way. So I asked her if she wanted to go out with me. Maybe we could find some men. We could meet some men. We could go play bingo. She said no, she didn't want to do that. And I thought, well, maybe you just wanted. I said I didn't really want to just meet men either, but I thought maybe you would, you just want to go out maybe. So she said no, she didn't want to do anything like that. I told her I dated a couple guys since my divorce, And there's a whole world out there. There are other men, it's not all over yet. But that it is excruciatingly painful to go through divorce, and all that. And it's very, very painful. I think that's what she's having a hard time admitting. She can't admit it. It's too painful for her, and she can't face that.